We had somebody earlier tell us that if Trump was standing on the steps of the White House and murdered someone, he'd still vote for him. Same with you?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
I don't know. I like Trump. He just got something about him.
Trump can do no wrong. That was the dominant message among some Trump supporters who spoke to our very own Michael Schor at the former president's rally in Pickens, South Carolina over the weekend. Let's watch a little more of the reaction to Michael Schor's question.
There are indictments, there's audio tape of him with classified documents, sharing them with people who didn't have that security clearance. Does any of that bother you?
No, I think they've been after him so long that all of this is just a witch hunt like he described it. I don't think there's anything Trump's done wrong. I think that the desperate opposition is just after him. I mean, they started out, and they've been after him 8 different ways, and they're going to keep after him until they can get him in jail, I think.
They went after Richard Nixon, they went after Bill Clinton, and now the courts in several different states are finding different things about Trump. Is there anything that could happen with him indictment-wise that would say, all right, maybe this disqualifies him for president?
Not for me. I'm with him to the finish.
All right, thank you so much.
He could stand on the front steps of the White House and commit murder, and I'm with him.
So what I found interesting about that video is, on one hand, when he's referring to the Trump indictments, he's kind of repeating what he's heard in right-wing media about how there's no there there, these indictments mean nothing, there's no evidence of him engaging in any wrongdoing. And I do think that that statement is the product of his media filter bubble. However, with that said, he also admits that if Trump committed murder, he would still support him. And so that goes against, what my belief is in regard to most Trump supporters who it's not that they support his criminality, it's just that they don't believe his criminality to be true. But in this particular case, clearly this supporter doesn't really care too much about potential criminality or if he literally committed murder, which blows my mind.
And the guy before him and a lot more people. So let me give you both sides here, because there's reality on both sides. So what do I mean by that? So first of all, having seen a ton of these interacting with Republicans outside of these interviews, but also seeing the whole breadth of the interviews that we do all the time. First of all, not all Republicans think that way. And so it's easy to say, okay, they're all the same, and which, by the way, they think of us too, right? And so I have seen slightly more moderate Republicans, and certainly I've seen plenty of Republicans who would say, well, if he was on tape and he killed someone, yeah, that's too much, right? So I'm being fair. Number two, I understand where they're going with the double standard. They say, look, you're telling me Trump broke all these laws, but then you've got all these other politicians who are corrupt and nobody ever says anything about them. And they're not wrong about that. Mainstream media, if you're an outsider or you don't belong in the establishment, whether you're Trump, Bernie, etc., they'll find 1,000 things wrong with you. And then the most corrupt people on earth are your mainstream Republicans and Democrats, and mainstream media can't find anything wrong with them. Just can't find it, right? Give me Jack Smith as a prosecutor, I'll get you incredible things that Mitch McConnell's done wrong, Nancy Pelosi's done wrong. So they're not exactly wrong about the double standard, okay? Now, having said that, 2 things jump out at me on the other side. Okay, so one is, look, there used to be something I call the Barkley rule. Charles Barkley would say so many crazy things that eventually it just became a Barkley thing. Like other people would get in trouble and Barkley wouldn't, because you're like, oh, it's just Charles Barkley. So Trump did the same thing, that was easy, right? Then Trump did a new thing that I'll call the Trump rule. He broke so many laws that his own supporters think, well, it must be persecution. Nobody could have broken that many laws. So they're obviously targeting him. They're targeting him for this. They must be trying to get him. No, they're a little bit trying to get him, and they're mainly Trump broke 1,000 laws because he's a pathological criminal.
Yeah, look, I agree with you to a large extent, but I want to emphasize something, because the fact that the Democratic Party put all their weight behind the Russia investigation, which did not play out the way they were hoping it would play out, I think essentially primed Republican voters to disregard any of the other potentially legitimate investigations into potential criminality. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And they spent two and a half years on that, and it was endless, right? MSNBC, wall to wall, 24-hour coverage. New York Times really lending credence to that investigation and the credibility of the accusations there. I mean, and then when there's nothing there, and they just try to latch on to an obstruction of justice charge instead, well, that signals to the American people, and in particular Trump supporters, that the media shouldn't be trusted, our justice system in regard to investigations toward Trump should not be trusted. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. Look, and I think, again, to be fair to everyone involved here, remember Mueller did conclude, it is fact that Russians did interfere in the elections, and they did do it on behalf of Trump. But Trump did not participate, okay? So that's a giant distinction. But everyone has lost that distinction. To the right wing, the Russians had nothing to do with the election and they're innocent as a driven snow, right? And to the left wing, Trump did it all, right? So, and did Maddow and Adam Schiff, and Maddow just being a representative of MSNBC, overdo, and she really was the worst of it, to be honest. Did they overdo it? Yes, I remember the segment where Maddow was like, all of America's gonna freeze and the Russians are gonna cut our energy lines and it's Trump. You're like, okay, just hold on. Trump needs evidence that the election was stolen, he has none. You have no evidence that they're gonna cut our energy lines and it's Trump's fault, right?
Remember when she made a big deal about obtaining the first page of one of Trump's tax filings?
Yeah.
And it ended up being a big nothing burger?
Yeah, so they overhyped, etc. And I get that. And I want to be clear about one other thing. So when I say that Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi are incredibly corrupt, but they didn't try to end democracy, Trump did. So Trump is unique in his badness in that sense, okay? But finally, guys, this is the part I hate saying, but it comes screaming through when you watch all the interviews. Why do you like Trump? Why do you like Trump? And the answer always comes back to, he's like us. He's America. He protects us. They don't mean all of America. They mean them, okay? And it's glaringly obvious. Every time you ask details, they have no details.
Well, let's go to a video. Let's go to a video where he's asked to elaborate. That very same individual, he's asked to elaborate on what it is that he likes about Donald Trump. So let's watch.
Well, he's got two good boys that are hunters, and he stands for American values is what I love about him. I just think he's one of us. Instead, I know he's very rich, but he has our values, and has our back.
Describe that for me. What are your values that Donald Trump shares with you then?
Parents in control of their children, being able to make choices for your family. America's been assaulted. Open borders, all the issues. We all know the issues. And nobody stood under the attack that Trump stood under. And look what he's done. He's hanging in there. He's for us. He loves this country. And I'm going to support him to the end. I hope he wins. We need him. Biden, to me, if he had not been a career politician, he might have been better, but he's lived in Washington all his life. I think we need term limits. I think we need to stop all these old people from running Washington, D.C. It's corrupt.
Well, the old people, Trump isn't, there's not a huge difference in age.
Yeah, I should rephrase that. The old people that's been in Washington all their life.
And one of the other things that seem to be repeated in these interviews is the issue with Biden being corrupt. Right now, they seem to be completely unaware of the money that Trump has taken from wealthy donors, the corruption that he engaged in. But nonetheless, they were specific about corruption. And in that interview that you just watched, he mentioned other things, being able to make decisions for your own family and all of that. Open borders, he thinks that there are open borders. He's concerned about that as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't make this situation any better. So I'll give you my point of view. When he says, hey, I like that his boys are hunters. I don't. I think that those guys massacred those poor defenseless animals. They weren't just doing like deer hunting. They were doing a big game for entertainment. Right. But that's in prelude to, okay, you like hunters, that's your business. It's not my business, okay? It is what it is. And so that's a fine reason to like them. And even though I disagree. Washington, they're from, all the other guys are from Washington and they're corrupted by Washington. That's a totally fair point, okay? So, but Trump is also corrupted by Washington 10,000 times more. But that's the fault of the Democrats. For example, Trump and his PACs took over $100 million from Sheldon Adelson twice. And the Democrats never talk about it. Why? Because they're also corrupt. And they don't want to talk about the donors because they're swimming in donor money. But if you wanted to pound Trump, you'd pound him on his corruption. The guy who did anything and everything for Adelson, even gave his wife a Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's a joke, total joke, but those guys don't know it. Now the bad stuff. He has our values, does he? What's your values? I mean, you don't mean family values. He's raw dogging porn stars and he's says terrible things, does terrible things. You don't mean family values. So what values are you talking about? Oh, he believes in putting parents in charge of children. That means I don't like gay people. I'm sorry, that's what it means.
No, that means he wants to be able to make a decision or help.
A decision about what?
He doesn't want schools making decisions for
about
his kids.
About gay people.
And
racism, right? He doesn't want racism taught. Those are the two issues, Anna. Those are the two issues in the schools.
Those are not the two issues, okay? One of the issues that you're totally downplaying right now, not even mentioning, is that some school districts want to, let's say a student comes out and identifies as transgender, school districts want to support that student and help him or her through that transition without ever having to notify the parents. I think there are issues there. Okay, and I do not begrudge parents for being concerned about that.
Anna, I agree with you. But you're finding a sliver of an issue. That guy's not talking, he doesn't even know that. All that guy knows, and what 98% of them know is, I don't like them teaching about gay people in school, okay? And I don't like them saying, oh, we were racist back to slavery and Jim Crow and redlining. Come on, we know what it means. That's 98% of their efforts in schools. And then when he says open borders, there aren't actually open borders. What he's saying is, I don't like Latino immigrants, they don't look like me. I don't like them. That's my values. Sorry, Republicans, I wish you were better. Not all of you, but a lot of you. The MAGA guys, that's why he says, as long as you're like us, I don't mind if you shoot someone on Fifth Avenue or in front of the White House. I don't mind because you're us and not them. Keep it real. And that's what you're seeing. And that's, by the way, also why they're never gonna turn on him. Not all of them, but hardcore MAGA, never, ever, ever, ever going to turn on Trump. Why? Because he is them. He is them. They see him, they're like, that guy's just as racist as I am. I like it. DeSantis has an ad out now about how much he hates gay people more than Trump does. And that might hurt him because they're like, oh, I thought Trump hated gay people as much as I do, right? So when he says values, he means the opposite of values. I watched all the tapes. All of them say, he's like us. They don't mean all of us. They mean, and when you ask them about the issues, they always go to, I don't like Latinos, I mean immigrants. I don't like gay people, I mean, I want parental control in schools. So that's the reality, you can see it all over the tapes.
That is your interpretation. None of that was actually said. It is what you have taken out of his statements there.
You're right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and hey, by the way, guys. Oh, by the way, guys, you guys all be the judge.
Just like anyone can watch the statements you made in regard to the story out of Israel today and say, he said what he said, and I could either take what he said at face value or just put words in his mouth and call him an anti-Semite. That would infuriate you, no?
Anna, okay, look, we have a different interpretation. Okay, we have a different. I saw the tape.
I don't agree.
I've seen 100 tapes.
I don't agree with that guy. Let me be clear about that, okay? But putting words in his mouth, I think is unnecessary. You can actually address what he said there without extrapolating and implying that he said something that he didn't actually say there.
So what's the benign interpretation? He's worried about taking jobs when we have 3.7 unemployment, record unemployment. He's not worried about losing jobs. He's worried about losing his culture.
You just straight up said, you just totally disregarded everything he said.
No, I didn't. I went exactly on what he said.
You boiled it down to, he's just racist. That's what you boiled it down to.
Because that is what he's saying.
Okay, that's your interpretation of it.
What do you think? There's a lovely interpretation of open borders and these goddamn immigrants coming in?
They genuinely think there are open borders. Okay, anyway, whatever.
And then what's the open borders do? What does it do? What does it do? Does it take our jobs? It doesn't take our jobs.
They think drug traffickers and MS-13 are pouring into the country and causing crime and violence and threatening their lives. That's what they think because that is what they hear in the media.
So that is fair. So that is what they hear on Fox News all the time, so they're scared. So Anna makes a good point. On the other hand, why does it work? if you said, oh my God, all these white people are coming in from Pennsylvania to Ohio and they're dangerous, it wouldn't work, right? The guy hears, oh, dangerous Latinos coming in with the crime and the drugs. Wait a minute. American-born citizens commit twice as much crime as undocumented immigrants. So why aren't you scared about natural-born American citizens? They're very dangerous. They're twice as dangerous as undocumented immigrants, 4 times as dangerous as naturalized immigrants. Why aren't you scared about natural-born Americans?
They're probably not privy to that information.
Okay, yeah, I agree. At the same time, they don't like Anna. Why did Tucker Carlson constantly say, your town was like this? But it doesn't look like that anymore, does it?
Because he's propagandizing
it doesn't feel that
people.
way.
That is what he did.
That's right, and they propagandize people, and what tool do they use? They use racism. It doesn't look like it used to. Things aren't the way they used to be. Oh, you loved it when you were in charge, you loved it. Now these sons of bitches have equality. We don't want equality. And guys, you saw the tape, and you can see a lot more tapes. Michael interviewed a lot of people. Check it out on our channels. And then you saw both Anna's interpretation and mine, and then 1,000 other interpretations. And then you make up your mind, okay? But what I saw, again, blasting out of every one of those interviews is, he's us, I don't give a goddamn what he does.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.